Okay, so it is Monday, the 5th of August. Thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis. It has been a big day. It was a big today, big Friday, big week last week. So if you are on the session, do drop a message and say hi. Let me know where you're joining us from. And if you can, do remember to drop a like and subscribe. I'm just watching the markets as well. So, okay, let's start over again. Thank you for joining me in this daily market analysis. If you're new to the session, do drop a message, say hi, let me know where you're joining us from. For all the regulars, a big welcome back. Thanks again for joining me. If you can help me out, do remember to click that like and subscribe button. That would help massively. And if you have any questions at any point in time, or you've entered your trades and made good profits or any losses, put it into the chat and let me know. Let's share some trade ideas, some trade setups, and I can do some reviews for you guys as well. Okay, markets have been absolutely crazy with a capital C and a capital Z. And we'll break down about all what has happened. Okay. Now, a quick disclaimer: any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade financial products, so please remember that your objectives, financial situation, and needs has not been considered and should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Take that away. Big news happening today. Oh, big news happening today. We just saw a massive drop on the US yen, down 234 pips over the last 6 hours. We saw the Aussie dollar drop, we saw the Kiwi drop, we saw the pound yen drop 300 and something pips to the downside. The main big thing that's happening is recessionary bells. I haven't said this word for a long time. US recessionary bells are ringing absolutely like bonkers right now, because what happened over last week with the non-farm employment change, big surprise here. This was a big surprise. I know many of our regulars got into trades, hit their take profits as quickly as the numbers got released. I got out at about 200 and something pips. What was it? I got out of my US yen at that one, 200 pips to the downside. I got in a little bit earlier on the news release. I caught the euro dollar to the upside at 60. No, I had about 70. I had about 70 to the upside on the euro dollar as well. All right, so I know many of you guys also made good trades. We're sharing that on Discord channel, on the Discord channel. We're sharing that in the comments as well. Again, if you haven't joined us on Discord, make sure you check out the link in the description. You can join us on Discord as well. Okay, so what happened on Friday was three things. Firstly, unemployment rate for the US went up by 0.2%. It was a 4.1. It's now a 4.3%. Didn't expect that. I was expecting unemployment rate to stay at 4.1, but now that it's at 4.3, in addition to how non-farm employment change went from 206 revised down to 179, expected 176. I was thinking 155, if you remember from Friday. It got released at 114K, 114. So I thought it was going to be bad at 155. It came out a lot worse at 114. And not only were less people getting employed, not only were more people being unemployed, we also had those who were employed being paid less than previous, where average hourly earnings month to month went from a 0.3 down to a 0.2%. The wage inflation is slowing down, but we're seeing less people getting employed in terms of the non-farm employment change at 114, and people losing jobs or not able to find jobs at 4.3%. right immediately when that news was released at 8:30 p.m. GMT plus 8 on Friday. What we saw on the dollar index, that's the news there. It was sitting at 104. It was just sitting just above that 104 number, that dotted line that we have there. On release of the news, it went straight down within the, I'll show it to you on the 15-minute time frame. Right, that's at 8:30. So it's just sitting there before the news. When the news came out, immediately it shot down from 104.035, 15 minutes down to 103.65. This key support level that we were looking for, get back to the H1, this key support level that we were looking for was the one that I said it could trade down to 103.65 if it was less than 155K. So it shot right down within that 15 minutes down to that support. And because it was at 114, and because we saw a 4.3% unemployment rate, we saw the dollar index continue to push to the downside, breaking that support at 9, went as low as 103.27. At 10, it went down to 103.15, and then it sat there. And early this morning, it continued pushing to the downside. So this was what I was looking at this morning, for it to come down to test this 102.55 level. It came down, pushed down to 102.65, bounced back up, got held by that support, turned to resistance, and it looks like it's pushing back down again. Okay, so that is what has happened. Big downside on the dollar index, as we were expecting, because of unemployment rates increasing, because of a low non-farm employment change number, and also because several major indicators or major equity markets was missing its earnings reports, was missing its earnings targets. So we saw a big drop on that as well. Now, recessionary fears are rising because we have interest rates possibly cutting. We have unemployment rates rising. We have treasury yields having that inverted yield curve. We have earnings and consumer spending slowing down. So that's why we're seeing all that bad news come in, pushing the dollar, and there's a lot of talk on recession risk sparking sell-off. All right, and also you see the risk of sentiment of 10% drop on Bitcoin, market sell-off, and also just today or over the weekend we had what was that headliner? Well, with a possible escalation. There we go. Right, this was 6 hours ago. So the US warns the G7 of a potential Israeli attack by Iran within 24 hours. So a move towards reserve, quite likely, we'll see on the dollar. We should have seen on the dollar. We see on the gold because of a escalation, a conflict in the Israel-Iran region. And then we see bad news, bad economic data for the US, which led to a big drop in the dollar as well. So it's all happening today. It's all happening today. And also, well, this just came out 40 minutes ago. Traders price a 60% chance of a 25 basis rate cut within 1 week. So we just had that decision that they weren't going to do anything. And now within a week, because of what's happening in the markets, they're expecting the Feds to jump in and cut rates by 25 basis points because the next meeting is in September, and September is a long time away in the scheme of things. I don't think, I mean, it could happen. It could happen that the Fed could jump in and cut rates, but it looked very bad for the Feds, for the Fed Reserve, right? So it looked very bad. Not sure if they will actually do that, but that's what they're pricing in. Okay. The other consideration was a 50 basis point rate cut in September, what I've read, and then following up with another 50 basis point rate cut this year. So, changing the whole scheme of things, changing the whole plan. Instead of one rate cut, we're now thinking that there might be two rate cuts at 50 basis points each time. So we'll look into that as that develops. And that was the non-farm employment change. Any questions so far, do put it into the chat and let me know. Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Hi, Haida has no trades yet. Hey, Angel Case, how you doing? Happy new week. Hey, Noah Chuku, good to see you. Good morning. Now, the good thing is, apart from the fact that I got into the yen and closed out 160 pips to the downside this morning. I saw it pushing down. I was so tempted to sell it down further. Didn't. It was way outside of the Bollinger Band, so I held on to it. I waited, and now it's bouncing back up. Most pairs seems to be retracing from the big drop we saw an hour and 2 hours ago, which is a good thing because it gives you a bit of a chance of a breather. For those of you just waking up and getting into the markets right now, it gives you the chance to gather your thoughts, look for the setup before we look for the next move. Okay, you can see all that now retracing at this point. Pound dollar, euro dollar back up again. US Swiss franc is sitting there. US CAD is sitting right there as well. So it's all holding its position right now, which gives us a chance to have a chat about where markets could be heading. If you look at the news, not much for today. Aussies are on a bank holiday, Canadians are on a bank holiday. The US has their ISM services PMI to be released. I don't think it's going to do too much for the markets this time around. Through to tomorrow, we have the RBA with their cash rate 4.35%, expected to hold at 4.35. There was a slight chance that they could have cut rates, but given the way that the market is moving right now, it might be a little bit too rash for the RBA to cut rates. It might be more likely that they would hold out, they'll wait a little bit and see what happens before they decide. Right? So most likely we're going to see a little bit of an uneventful, not really uneventful, a little bit more of an overshadowed RBA decision tomorrow at 12:30. Right? A bit of an overshadowed because of everything else that is happening. So with all that said, then looking at the news. Okay, looking at the news, I think the main broad, what we've just discussed is the overshadowing almost everything for now. Then looking at the charts, the dollar index, where are we? We've done all that. I don't need those for now. I can take all that away. Those are done, and that's it. We're far away from that. So we took all those away. We spoke about the non-farm. We'll take that away. You see that the dollar came right down, as we said, broke lower, tested 102, well, 103, round number, right? And 103, I'll show you to you on H4 time frame, came right to this point. And then I have my dotted line down here at 102.55 because that's where the dollar came down to in March and bounced off. Right? So it came down to this point in March and bounced off. So we're looking at 102.55. If the dollar breaks beyond 102.55, then we're likely to see it come down to this area here of 102. I like it as a 102 round number. There we go. Yeah. Bloomberg just popped out something. Okay, nothing much. So that's a 102 round number support. Okay, we put that right across to where we are right now. So that's my support area that I'm watching out for. That's on the H4 time frame. Back to the H1, we see the dollar index test, rebound, take that away. What needs to happen? I'm still looking for that downside. Dollar index to retest or to test 102.55 and continue pushing down to that 102 support level. There's no big news, or I don't see any big news for now that could push this back up. Okay, so I'll put that in today being the first, oh no, not the first, the 5th of August. Take that away. Dollar index, no more consolidation. It looks like it's trading lower to 102.55. Beyond that, could test 102 round. I can't type today. Round. I was typing about a whole article. Couldn't type. Typos everywhere. Round number support level. All right, so I'm looking at dollar weakness to continue pushing to the downside to test that 102 round number support. It is a bit contradicting in terms of logic, because as much as the dollar is hovering near a 4.5 month low after the weak jobs data, market sell off, recession risk, and global stocks rout. We're seeing that sell off, but yet we're anticipating some move towards reserve because of what's happening in Israel and Iran, right? So it looks like we might see that push down briefly and then possibly a bounce back from that 102 level. But I also want to show you this, just to show you the overall scheme of things, is that in March, we went up from March all the way up to a 106 level from March 9th to April 18th, right? All the way up. And then it tested, it came down, and over a relatively short period of time, this was 30th of July, to now we're almost down from 104 down to that 102 level. So big moves that we're seeing right now on the dollar index. 5th of August, dollar index trading lower to 102 support, test 102 round number. Okay, I like that. I'm just thinking whether to highlight the 103 level. I think that's fine. Okay. Why I was thinking of whether to highlight that 103 level is because I was looking at the MACD, the TSRI MACD, where we were looking at it possibly crossing back up. But if you zoom in right now, you can see that pushing up and that slowly crossing back down to bring a bit more momentum to the downside. So I'll still look for that downside on the dollar index. Okay, cool. Hey Diana, how you doing? Now on to the Kiwi dollar. Push right down. So last 2 hours, it was at 0.5942, down 2 hours to 5848, and now bouncing back because it is outside of the Bollinger, right? Pushing back up. This wouldn't have been a trade as much as it would have been a good 45 pips. This was what we talked about on Friday, so wouldn't have been a trade. It came down and tested this support level. Okay, I'll take that away for now. It came down and tested this support level and bounced right back up. I wouldn't think too much about that support. It's really the dollar index that's pushing it around. right now as it pushes back up. As it pushes back up and anticipating that dollar weakness to come back into play or to continue, what I'll be looking for is for it to break above this resistance and to trade up from this point. 5930 tight stop 20 pips, take profit 40 50 pips to the upside. Okay, then if it breaks that level, you can look for the next move to the upside. Again, a lot of times through my experience coaching a lot of people like yourselves, I realize that when markets are volatile, what a lot of traders tend to do is get extra greedy, right? What you should be doing, what I would encourage you to do when markets are extra volatile is to be extra cautious. So instead of looking at a possible 115 pips to the upside, I would look for a good 50 pips move up, close out the trade, see what happens at that resistance before looking for the next move, because things can change very quickly. Look at that hour where it shot right down. You would have thought maybe it's going to break the support for bigger downside. Next moment, it comes right back up again. So instead of being super greedy, time to be super cautious. Okay, take that away. So 5930 20 to 50 to the upside. Buy at 0.5930, stop loss 20, take profit 50 to the upside. Then on to Aussie, same thing. This was the news that pushed up, and then after that came right back down. Set at that point, if you did get into the Aussie, it didn't fit our setup on Friday because it didn't come down to bounce. It sat right there, and then on the news shot up before coming back down. So you shouldn't have got into that trade, but if you did get into that trade, it would have taken a long time and hit a 20 pip stop loss, right? But that 20 pip stop would have saved you from a big drop here before now pushing back up. Now I'm looking at the Aussie as it does this. Take this away. Let me just check something here. Oh, it's all broken. All right, so it came right down, tested the support, tested the interim level, which is right there. And it's pushing back up again. Take that away for now. I don't need that either. What I would be looking for is a reaction at this 6466 level. Right, we see this crossing up, the MACD crossing up as well. So if it does break up above that 6465 level, my resistance now, you would be looking at I'm just thinking what on the Aussie, because of the interest rate decision tomorrow at 12:30 as well, right? It does seem unlikely that they will cut rates, keeping it at 4.35%. But I'm considering the idea that maybe the RBA doesn't cut rates, but jawbone it, talk down the Aussie. So we were thinking that the Kiwi could push up to that 50. I'm thinking now look for reaction at 6465. Maybe we could see it test and reject back down. We could see it test and reject back down. 6455 20 to 60 just down there, and 90 or 100 down to here. I'm actually thinking that it could push up a little bit more than that. right? I think that it could push up a little bit more than that and then sell it back down. We'll look out for that, especially with the news due tomorrow. Okay, so 6455. We want to see it test. So Aussie dollar, we want to see T reaction at 0.6465. And then also with RBA decision pending, we could be looking to sell at 0.6455, stop loss 20, take profit 60. I don't see 100. I don't see 100. I see 60 to the downside down here. Okay? We look for that. Then, onto my favorite pair, right? We had this on Friday to the downside, a good 200 pips on the yen all the way down. Came down this morning, got into another 160 to the downside. That's done. And that happened in a flash as well. The next moment, it pushed down. I was very keen to see it test the support, but it was outside the Bollinger, so I didn't sell it down. It's outside, it's come back in. What I'm looking out for here now on the yen is a retest, right? So I've taken Friday's point all the way down to the low of today so far, right? And it's come right back up to that 23.6 level. It's come right up to that 23.6. And if you were on the stream earlier on just then, you would have noticed that I was checking on the loads on what time the Tokyo was going to close. I was just sitting there waiting for, wondering whether Tokyo is going to close soon or not, because the Nikkei has been dropping. Where was it? The Nikkei was down to the 1987 low, or biggest plunge since 1987. Japan stock circuit breaker triggered for topics, right? Japanese stocks tumble, leading equity sell off. It's all happening right now. So it's all to the downside. It's all to the downside. And I was looking at the markets closing off to bring about some stability. It's at its 430 right now. So you see the yen finding a little bit of stability, a little bit of support here at this 102, 142 level, pushing back up. Now, at this point, I'm possibly thinking that if it can, I would like to see it push up above that 23.6. And I'd like to see it test and then turn back down again, right? Especially dollar dragging it lower. You see the dollar doing that, dragging it lower to the downside. The better setup, the safer, more ideal setup would be for it to test and reject that 144 level. I'll look to sell down 143.50. I would have a slightly, right now, yen stop losses would be a slightly wider, right? I might be looking at about a 70 pip stop loss. I'll be looking at a 250 pip take profit towards that 141 support level. If that works, super. Alternatively, you'll be looking for it to break 142, right? You would have a tight stop. So if it doesn't break above that 23.6, you have a stop loss of about 50 pips. You have a take profit of about 100 to the downside. So there are the two options there on the US yen for it to retrace more, test, reject, push down, or it sits in this area, consolidates, and then breaks lower. I only look to sell down from the 142 level. Or there on the US yen. I'll highlight this one as I see a potential retrace before a continuation back down. Okay, so US yen, very similar to the Aussie, is that we want to see a look for retracement to complete, possibly retest 144. Then we'll look to sell at 143.50, stop loss 50, take profit 250 to the downside. Oh no, 70 to 250 to the downside. Okay, there we go. Look for retracement to complete to retest. Retracement to complete to retest a 144 level to push it back down, break below 143.50. 70 pip stop loss, 250 pip take profit to the downside. That's what I'm looking for on the US yen. Nothing for now, right? Unless it does that. Then onto the pound. Look at that. Look at that. If you guys haven't realized, I'm super happy and excited about the markets today. Just because of all, we've been waiting so long for all this volatility. It's in right now. Although volatility can be terrible if you're on the wrong side of things, but just have to trust your setup, wait for your setup and trust it. Right? We see that downward bearish trend line. It tested on Friday, rejected, pushed back down. This morning formed, or this afternoon now formed a bit of a double bottom. I don't like to call it a double bottom, but I'm looking at it, push, test that level and push back up. Diana, you summed it up in 2 words, market insane, right? Insane, but profitable. Okay, so what I'm looking at now here on the pound dollar is that we do nothing right now. We look for the dollar to continue its weakness. If the pound dollar does break above that resistance, I don't think we're going to see that big move. We want to see that point. And you see it breaks 38.2, right? So we'll catch those first. Okay, so I would have an interim level at about this point, which kind of is in the area of that 61.8. Not too crazy and aggressive. We'll look for it to break that resistance. 1.2870, stop loss 20, take profit 60, 70 pip to the upside. Pushing up, dollar index weakness, pushing the pound up. So 1.2870, 20 to 70 to the upside. Looking at that. Buy at 1.2870, stop loss 20, take profit 70 to the upside. Dollar is still trading down, is testing 102.55. We're seeing everything push back up. I'm keen on that, but that's still pushing up. Aussie dollar, Kiwi dollar still pushing up. You might be looking at a Kiwi coming up soon, possibly at the close of this hour. Something to watch out for. Pound dollar bouncing back up. Don't do anything in that triangle. Look for it to break above before you get into a possible trade setup. Euro dollar now, that push up. We were talking about this as our, as a big counter trend move, right? The dub that 61.8 level bouncing up. We saw this was what we talked about on Friday. At about that point, we said that it was bouncing off 61.8. The MACD was, TSI MACD was crossing to the upside. This is where we're looking for that 70 pip move to the upside, and that's happened. That's a good 70 pips up. Now that it's pushed up beyond that 61, beyond that previous high at that resistance area, and this was the top that we saw on the 8th of March. Coming back down. Okay, back to the H1. Look at that. Okay, one thing at this point, just remind yourself that as much as everything is moving crazily, it's not always going to continue in a straight line all the way. There are going to be retracements. There are going to be some form of corrections. The dollar could, not saying that it will, could bounce at this 102 level back up again. So just be very careful, right? Because this kind of situations would be the points where a lot of traders would have made good profits trading it up. And then the next moment you buy it up there thinking it's going to go all the way up, and then it retraces back down and you have a big loss, right? So you want to wait for it in this area. Oops, you want to wait for it to break out of this whole area that we've seen back here in January. And you remember it's a nice round number here at 1.1. Okay, so I'll change these lines across because that's my resistance area I want to focus on at 1.1. A nice key level here for the euro. And beyond that, we're looking at about 1.1060, just in the middle there. So that's what I'm looking at. Okay, needs to break out of 1 point there. So what you'll be looking, what I think is going to happen is it's going to break out, test, and do that. If we see the dollar continue to weaken, then you'll be looking at 1.1010, very binary here. 20 pip stop, 50 pip take to the upside. It seems euro is gaining some strength. It is, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can see that, right? This is why, if I've been mentioning this TSRI MACD for a couple of times now already. If you want to get a trial and test it out, reach out to me. I have a link somewhere, but reach out to me and I'll send you the link. You can get a trial of this. You can see right now that it's starting to cross over, or it's trying to cross over. If it does cross over, you're going to see that upside move that we saw like from last week as well. Okay, so euro dollar 1.1010, 20 to 50. Now let's look at that. Buy 1.1010, stop loss 20, take profit 50 to the upside. Dollar tested that level, bouncing back up slightly. Just give it some time. On to the US Swiss franc. It pushed down. That moved down, but we didn't see that retest. So it's pushed down, broken several support levels. Right, broken several support levels. Now at this point, I want the key levels only. So that's my now resistance level because of that point. And beyond that, we have the next point here as my next support and an interim level just about there. Back to the present. At this point, where are we? Zooming on the chart. Right, and you can see that little bit of a divergence in correlation between the US Swiss franc, the Swissy, and the dollar. It should move in tangent together with each other, but You see dollar pushing down, busy pushing back up. So what you want to see here is a retracement, a test and reject of that resistance in this area. I want to see that push up and then turn back down on dollar weakness, right? Maybe to even test 0.86. I'm looking for it to test this area and push back down. Then I'll be looking at 8540, stop loss 40, take profit 85 to the downside. We don't need to go break new lows and go for crazy targets. We just want to see it now retrace, test that resistance, test that area, reject, push back down. 85, 0.8540, 40 pip to 85 pips. Is anyone going to complain about an 85 pip take profit? I don't think so. 8540, 40 to 85. So we're going to sell down at 0.8540. Stop loss 40, take profit what was it, 80, 70, 80, 85 to the downside. 85 downside. Okay. Now onto the US CAD. Oh, look at that. We were just talking about this as it was pushing up, and the next moment, dollar comes right back down. US CAD comes right back down, and I've done this over the whole of last week, where I show it to you on the H4 and I said it's tested this area, it's pushed back down. This level here on November 2nd last year, tested, rejected, and again, tested, rejected. Now it's showing that same point again, right? H4, pushed up, big tail, forming a pin bar to the downside. Let's take that away for now. Forming a pin bar to the downside on the H4 time frame. So imagine if that pin bar forms. What kind of big downside move are we looking at? Okay, so I'll take that away. I'll go to H1 again. Take that away because that's in the middle. At this point, don't rush in yet because it's right in the middle. Trend line is still pushing up. We zoom right out to see the trend line. I don't need those. That still holds. So what we're looking at now is that confluence in the support and that trend line, the bullish trend line. If it breaks, we might see a big move to the downside, but first you can scale into this position or you can slowly grow this position. You look at 1.3825. Stop loss, you'll be looking at 20 pip. Stop, take profit, you're looking at a 40. First, once it comes down, if it shows like it's breaking this support, drag that stop loss lower, drag that stop loss to break even or secure some profits, drag that take profit lower. We could see a big move back down on the US CAD. Okay, but first off, 1.3825, 20 to 40. Sell 1.3825, stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the downside. Okay. Any questions so far? And also, well, any questions so far, put it into chat, let me know. And also, if you can, remember, help me out. Click that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching this after the live session, then do leave a comment or do leave a feedback or comment in the comments below. Leave a comment in the comments below. All right. So this was what happened on gold. And that's why it's been very weird, right? On Friday, we saw gold push up. I'll show it, I'll zoom in a bit. On Friday, we saw gold push up on release of the news because of the dollar weakness, right? To test that 24.48 area, came right back down. And on that 10 o'clock, you see dollar didn't do too much, right? Dollar didn't do too much, but yet we saw gold come right back down. Gold came right back down, broke that trend line, take that away, broke that trend line, but got held along this previous swing level and that 38.2, right? This swing level here, holding prices, and that 38.2, that trend line is, I can take that away, it doesn't make sense now. But what you should notice at this point is that although we have that whole global conflict, oh, not global yet, hopefully not ever, but the escalation in conflict between Israel and Iran, that recessionary risk, escalation of risk of recession, big sell-offs on the dollar and the other equities, but yet gold seems to be relatively undisturbed, right? It's been sitting there. And in fact, is possibly showing a little bit of a downside potential as well, right? Forming a bit of a double top here. So I'm actually expecting gold to push up. I was expecting gold to push up as you know the uncertainty um, creates a or shifts towards a shift of towards reserves. But yeah, it's not happening. But yet it's not happening. So what I'm looking for on gold right now would be it needs to stay above 24.20, right? Maybe 24.10, give it a bit more space. It needs to stay above 24.10 to push back up towards that 24.80 level and then possibly 2500. But it doesn't seem like 2500 is a point that gold wants to get to in a rush. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is gold needs to stay above 2410 to retest 2480 resistance. Okay, but it's still sitting in that area. No, add one more. Needs to stay above 2410, break 2450 to retest 2480 resistance. And there we go. Fortunately, we are 9 minutes to the hour close. Kiwi is sitting just below this level at 5930. That could be a trade setup that you're looking at. Aussie is pushing up. We're looking for a test and reject. US yen is retracing. I hope that it plays out as we expect. I'll take that one away. Right, a push up, a test, and a reject. Pound dollar pushing up, testing that area. Euro dollar, give it a bit more time, needs time. US Swiss franc retracing, testing to reject. US CAD pushing lower. Good. And there we have it. A lot of volatility and activity this day, and possibly more coming up. Please remember to trade well, trade safe. I will keep the stream running because I'm still trading. I'm still looking for possible setups. So if you stay on the stream, I'll be sharing any setups that I'm looking at. If you have any setups that you're looking at, put it into the chat as well. I'll be happy to jump on the trades that you're jumping into as well. With all that said, see you tomorrow. Take care now.